So, hello and welcome to the New Gig podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Hodgson, and today I'm delighted to be joined by the CEO of Topcoder, Doug Hanson. How are you doing, Doug?
Doing really well, Glenn. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So let's go back to the start, Doug. Just give us a little bit of an overview of your career, your
Yeah,
background, and also more information on Topcoder, please.
sure. Let me where to start? Maybe just a little bit on the qualities about me, maybe just that'll help level set, maybe, and help understand maybe some of the conversation we'll have today. I'm I'm a bit of an optimist. I am an optimist and a believer in people,
Good.
and someone who likes a good challenge. And so you'll kind of see how all those things sort of fit into the work that I'm doing at Topcoder, and how I sort of approach the freelance marketplace ultimately. I see the good in the potential in people, and Topcoder's got a community that has a lot of potential, and that's important that we're able to see that. And so those are like I said, those are the qualities that drive me in my personal life and as a leader at work. A little bit about my background. I'm a bit of a generalist, and that was sort of by design. I started my career in finance and accounting, and I was fortunate to work at some of the larger, well-known organizations where I had leaders that gave me an opportunity to take on roles that maybe I didn't have as much as experience in. Right? They saw potential in me and gave me the opportunity, which I think is why I'm often giving back to when I think about potential in people. And so gave me a chance to work in, like, I started in finance accounting, went to operations, supply chain. I worked in product for a bit. Sales. I even had a marketing role for a little bit, customer success, service, and analytics. And so it was a great career that sort of positioned me well to step into a role as a senior leader at Topcoder and help guide the team and in the future vision of ultimately where we're going. A little bit about Topcoder, and so just you asked about what is Topcoder. Let me give you the mission and sort of like or the purpose statement for Topcoder, which I think is important. And so ultimately, we want to solve the world's most complex problems utilizing open innovation, right? And for us today, open innovation is crowdsourcing. We've been doing crowdsourcing for 20 years. It was before crowdsourcing was cool, right? It was we helped write some of the early books, that Harvard wrote on crowdsourcing, and they referenced us, right? And so we've been working with them and other large organizations for quite some time. And so that was the model that really built us, right? And the crowdsourcing model, the challenge model, as we call it, and happy to dig into that a little bit more if you'd like.
Yeah.
And then within probably the last 5 or 6 years, we added staffing, and we call it task talent as a service. And it's essentially staff augmentation, where a lot of the other freelance marketplaces do out there. We saw the need for it, and wanted to make sure that we had that capability, and we wanted to give our community more opportunities for employment and to work on gigs that they would get excited about. Because at the end of the day, with the freelance marketplace, it's really about unlocking their potential, and that's our purpose statement. Unlock the potential of the global workforce, because when you unlock people's potential, they're more passionate, they're more excited about the work they're doing, and they're going to do better work. They're higher quality, and you're going to get higher quality outcomes. And at the end of the day, organizations in the world are going to see better outputs. And so that's where we're at with Topcoder, the challenge model, and staffing, and we've got some other new products that are coming out that happy to dig into later in the discussion.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. I mean, we're seeing this sort of this development of the open and global talent model. It's people moving away from kind of a 9 to 5, 5 days a week, selling hours to one employer. It's much more flexible. It's much more open, and people are demanding much more sort of fulfillment, enjoyment, and flexibility. So yes, say a little bit about the challenge model piece, actually, Doug.
Yeah, so the challenge model, the way it works is it's crowdsourcing, and so a company has a problem they need to solve. And actually, let me use a good example, a fun example that we'd worked with NASA. We've been working with NASA for 18 years, and wow. They came to us. Just think about this, similar to an organization comes to us with a problem or something they need to solve. And so NASA came to us and they said, "Hey, and I'm going to oversimplify it for the NASA, because the NASA folks, we've got these images of the sky from the LASCO telescope, these images of the sky. We want to know if your community can help us identify any previously undiscovered comets.
Right.
And so I'll tell you, when you have a large community, 1.7 million members around the world, with varying skill sets and expertise, the question to that answer is always, yes, we can help you, right? And so you have a problem, and so we can take it to our community and we challenge them, and that's the challenge model. And so we say, all right, community, all right, what's the business requirements? What's the data that we have? And what's the timeline? And what's the prize, ultimately, the prize that you get if you solve this? And so we put the challenge out to the community, and they came back to us. And the beauty of this, and the reason why I love to use this example, it's not just that they solved this and they discovered two previously undiscovered comets, right? We had our own don't look up moment, but it was that some of the top people that had that placed or that won had very novel approaches to solving this. And this is an approach that NASA engineers didn't think of on their own. And so when you open up a challenge or a need to solve something to a wider audience, you're going to get more innovation. You're going to get more better outcomes. Things are going to move faster. You're going to get people that are passionate. They have the skills and the desire to work on it. And so this is just a great example. I got a lot of other case studies where we're working with various organizations. So you can take that NASA one and put it into an enterprise has a similar type problem that needs to be solved, and we do the same type of exercise.
Excellent. So it's really sort of leveraging the community and the ecosystem to get the responses, but also probably some responses that are not expected, that are completely a little bit out there, that sort of take the discussions and the thoughts in a completely different direction. Which I suppose that's the whole idea behind this. At the end of the day, Doug.
Yeah. And you know what? And some say like, oh, hey, but there's a bunch of people that didn't actually win, so they didn't earn anything. The beauty of the challenge model is it's a learning model at the same time. And so these people that come in, they submit, and if they pass review, they met the certain criteria, the business requirements, then they get to see the submissions from the other people, and so they learn. Right. And so they can say, oh, I see how they approach that. That's something I'll think about next time when I try to solve something either in a challenge, or maybe they have a full-time job and they're going to think about different ways to approach things. Right. So that's part of it. The other part is they build their profiles, right? And so it's a proof of capability. And so you may not have won, but now you have a ranking in a certain skill set. And so now you have a proof of capability that you can do this type of work. It's not your LinkedIn profile where you say, I've done this, and that. It's actually, I've actually done it, and Topcoder can vouch for me. And so the community loves it.
Yeah. So it's much more filtered as well. And I think that's really important in these days of, we can't believe what we see here in any shape or form now. This kind of bringing that extra level of authentication and almost authenticity to what's going on, Doug.
Yeah. No, it's I actually want to go back and answer one other thing. You mentioned sort of about the workplace and how we think about I think you're kind of alluding toward this sort of like people keeping people happy, right? And
absolutely.
I think the challenge model is part of that. I want to make sure I answer one other part. I think one of the sort of the future of work, it's important that it's about having the right skills at the right time in the right place. And I think that's with the freelance economy. I think companies that figure that out will advance faster than others, and eventually it'll be table stakes. But there's one aspect that I think is really important that, this may be a bit controversial but I think it's about trust. It's about, trusting your people. And so whether that's a full-time person or a freelancer, you ultimately have to trust that people will get the job done. And so you trust and you put in measures of success ultimately, right? And so it doesn't matter where they are, and again, this is probably the controversial part. I think there's certain roles that you'll always need to be in the office, but there's certain roles, and this is important for the freelance economy too. Why you can, if you set up measurable results, right, and checkpoints and measurable outcomes, and you trust that people will get these things done, then let them go, let them do it, let them do whatever
Yeah.
time they want when they need to get it done. And that's really important. I think the future of work is about trusting our people to get the job done ultimately. And so that's when you mentioned sort of, there's some of the questions around this and how to keep people happy. It's trusting them. It's not about paying them more. It's not about like forcing them back into the office, or it's about trusting that and you hired great people, trust that they will do great work for you.
Yeah. And I think this is a key driver for businesses, but also talent themselves as well, this trust element. And I think that, given that we've got sort of a much more open labor market, open workforce, but also technology is facilitating a lot of this flexibility as well, that creating that stickiness, but also how can we, as you're speaking about there, making sure that people feel engaged in what they're doing, I think is absolutely essential. And also this fact that, that organizations also need to change a bit, Doug, as well, because of the fact that we've seen that, you're a full-time employee with a full-time contract. Then we have some consultants and some freelancers who are kind of like at a different level. They're lower down the pecking order for no real reason. They're giving value and services to the organization. This is probably something that this kind of freelancer strategy or open talent strategy is something that more and more companies and organizations need to get their arms around.
Yeah. So I think the way you think about your freelance community as a platform, I think is very similar to how you should think about your internal employees too. And so it's really, you have to care about them. Right. And number one, you have to care about them. And that means, and I talked about trust, and you'll hear me talk about trust. We'll talk some other times. I'll talk about trust because I do think it's the foundation for any great organization is trusting your people. And to get to that trust, you have to listen to them, right? You have to actively listen to them. You have to take their feedback. Be consistent, have great communication, empathize with them. And so I think that's really important. And that's, so for your freelance community that you're working with, you got to take that input from them. And then you have to follow through on the things that you're going to say. It's the same thing for internally with your people, right? And so I think that companies need to realize that they, at the end of the day, they have to care about their people. And for us, our community are our people. They're part of our, they're part of our organization. And I think the organizations that do that will move faster, will have more success at the end of the day. The other things I think that are important is, well, I mean, obviously you have to provide opportunities, right? So they're coming to you in the first place. You have to have the opportunities for them to work. So that's critical as well. But I think another thing that I like and that we've done at Topcoder is we involve our community in building Topcoder. The community has helped to build Topcoder, and so we take their input. We're actively listening to them, and we utilize them. And so we use our own challenge model and our own talent as a service model and bring them in to build Topcoder. So we keep our staffing, we obviously have our core individuals, but we know how talented these individuals are. And so we want them helping us to build the future of Topcoder. And so I think for other platforms too, I think it'll be important that you build that trust, you care about them, and then bring them into the fold, make them part of your organization, let them help you build it. And then they're going to feel like they're part of something, right? And part of the organization, because that's what's important, because as freelancers, you're often on your own, right? And so finding ways for them to connect and feel like they're part of something is important. And for us, letting them be part of Topcoder, not just as this community member that fills a gig. It's like they're actually part of growing something bigger, right? And so I think that's really important for organizations.
Yeah, I think this is essential. This way you actually look at talent clouds a little bit differently. It's not just a one-way relationship. Okay, this is a way for you to get some work, pick it up, put it down, move on to the next gig. But it's something a bit more joined up, and probably includes the stickiness, if that's a word at all, in terms of that community. People really feel part of it, and actually it can grow on itself in that way as well, kind of an organic development.
No, there's I think companies just need to continue to focus on that. And I think what I want to reiterate one point that I made. But you have to make sure you have clear, measurable results. And so you would do that for your freelancers, you would do that for your internal employees. And so going back to, I want to reiterate another comment is around not worrying about where they are, but just having clear, measurable results and trusting them. And I give an example for folks that maybe get stuck on this. I often think about think of like a contractor or auto mechanic, right? Like
Okay.
you wouldn't go to them and just say, hey, fix my house, or the contractor, fix my car, and then I'll check up on you in a few weeks or whatever. You'd say, hey, I need to, remodel my kitchen, the cabinets,
Yeah.
and let's have expectations and timelines and then check-in periods, right? And same thing with mechanic, right? You say like, hey, I need to rebuild my carburetor, or maybe we don't use carburetors now, or like fuel injectors or whatever it may be, and then there's a check-in and expectation. The same thing with your employees, same thing with your freelancers. And so there's like, it's like, okay, here's what needs to be done. I'll check in on you, but at the end of the day, you just get it done. I'm not going to stand over you. I don't need you to be sitting next to me. I don't need to watch you doing it. I believe in your capabilities and what you can do, and I trust that you will get it done. And that is critical. Companies that start to build that trust, and I keep repeating this because I think those companies that have that trust will start to believe more in the freelance economy, because it doesn't matter whether it's their employees for certain skill sets. I know that I've set expectations with these people all over the world to help me build this, and I want them here because these are some of the most brilliant minds in the world that I can't access otherwise. But I've given them, hey, this is a deliverable by this time. Let them go do it, and at that time they have to execute on that, and so that's important to building this freelance revolution.
I completely agree. And this is also sort of something we can see as almost like these accelerated feedback loops as well. You have very clear projects with beginning, middle, and end. You've got what is value, how are you actually sort of delivering on that, and almost project by project, you can actually put a very sort of very specific result on that, which is good for the organization, but also good for the open talent themselves, who can actually learn by doing much more quickly. I mean, we all know the sort of the horror stories from either the 6-monthly or the 12-monthly corporate performance review that no one really knows about. It's a pain for people to put together. It doesn't really give anything in terms of an ingenious process, but this is really concrete, very specific, and you can see if you're moving the needle almost instantaneously on this, Doug.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think it's and one thing to keep in mind there, because you talk about that review and going through that process, and oftentimes people in organizations, there's things that they're passionate about, and other things that they just need to do, and they kind of go through the motions at the end of the day. What the beauty of the freelance world and crowdsourcing as well is, there's always someone that is passionate about that piece of work. And so I want to loop back around a little bit to the challenge model and just talk about sort of and how it sort of works. I oversimplified it a bit. And so think about like a company needs to solve a project. And so it's not just that we'll take a project and we'll put it out to the community and say, excuse me, solve this. We actually we go through a process we call atomization, and so we break it down into smaller little pieces that identify certain skill sets, and so then we launch multiple challenges. And so there's always someone, again, that is passionate, that has the knowledge, that's skilled to be able to accomplish that aspect of the project, and then we bring it all back together as a final product for the customer at the end of the day. And so then when you think about the reviews and things like that, these when you like, hey, you got to work on this, you got to work on that. When you think about the freelance community, these are things they're passionate about. They're excited about working on every day. And so you're always going to get these high level results. And so think about that within your organization. Keep certain aspects where people are passionate about, and your full-time employees, let them continue to do that. Let them shine and be passionate about that. And they're going to have amazing reviews right at the end of the day. But and then, what, some of that other stuff, maybe some of that onerous activity or some of those side projects you can't get to, like, let the freelance community do it. There's someone out there that's passionate about that, wants to work on it. Bring them in. Right. And so there's different aspects of the freelance community that I think are really important. There's it can be the smallest tasks to some of the most innovative stuff, like I talked about with the comments and some of the other things we've done in data science.
Excellent. And I suppose this is something that also, by putting these things in place, this attracts the high skilled talent that you're looking for as well. The people with the sort of knowledge, expertise, and abilities that are attracted to sort of the community.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think this is I mentioned a little bit earlier that the talent in the freelance community is getting better, by the day, right? It's the quality continues to rise, and there's so many individuals that just want to, hey, I want to again work on things that I'm passionate about, things that I get excited about, and this is people just starting their career. They don't want to slug through like the things that we did early on, like heads down, just do that, do it because you got to do it. You hate it. You're like, 10 years from now, I'm going to be doing something I like to do. They want to enjoy it right away, and that's okay. But there's something that they want to do, and so they're looking around for this, this opportunity to work on projects they're excited about, and they're going to be passionate, and they're going to be great at it because they are passionate. And so you just have to make sure you're, providing those opportunities for them. And I think the challenge model helps a lot with that. But I think it's important for organizations to realize that you're not going to be able to, as much as you want to hire out some of those people full time, you're not going to get them. Yeah. They're freelancers, or maybe they're doing their own thing. Maybe they're professors, or we've got folks that are police officers that code on the side, and police officers in Brazil, for example, that code on the side, and they're the best coders, right? They do amazing work for us, but they don't want to quit their day job. Right. But they love doing this on the side. And so some of these other individuals, like, you will never gain access to them. And so take advantage of the freelance community. It'll be about speed. It'll be about cost. It'll be about quality. And at the end of the day, the big one is innovation. These guys are going to think outside the box. You're going to break out of that, that box, that group think that you often have within organizations. These people are coming from different perspectives, different backgrounds. And so companies want that. Organizations crave that. And so you have to be willing to trust and bring those individuals into your organizations to excel, because the quality of individuals in these communities are amazing.
Yeah, 100%. Because this is what we're seeing. Look at the statistics. Almost all the developed world at the moment, we're hearing the same thing, that companies and organizations can't find the skilled talent that they need. They need to change their mindset and think that, okay, I'm not going to have 100% of these people because they don't want to be there. They've got a different work style, different lifestyle. But I can have them to have this specific niche inputs into my organization at specific moments, and that's enough. So it's this mental shift almost, Doug, that we need to work on to get the talent and expertise that organizations are craving at the moment.
Yeah, it is. It is a mental shift. And, I think the most progressive organizations have been doing it for some time, and they're reaping the benefits of that speed, that scale, access to, the brightest minds 24/7, right, around the world, in every area of expertise, and innovation, right? The innovation that they're seeing. Like I said, I think companies that don't adopt and don't adapt to this future of work that we're talking about, will fall by the wayside. I think it's going to be table stakes at some point, where it's like you have to have a strategy around open innovation and utilizing freelancers to enhance your business ultimately. And whether that's a challenge model, a gig model, or whatever it may be, it's critical to will be critical to organizations. And so, but I think going back to what I said earlier, I think that's that trust. You have to trust that you trust the organization you're working with, trust the outcomes that they're going to have, and think about how you want to bring them in initially. Maybe it's just a pilot, a test to fill that one little thing that's on your backlog, but then eventually think about within your organization. You always have your full-time employees and your core group of individuals, but what are the different projects, tasks, or expertise that you want to tap into that's outside of your organization, and really start to think about that and develop a strategy around how do I use freelancers and in the gig economy to ultimately help solve the needs of my business and help us accelerate.
Yeah, it's a kind of a blended team approach. It's not saying everyone's going to be freelance, everyone's going to be full employed, but this mixed approach of getting the right blend for the organization for efficiency gains, but also to keep everyone happy as well, Doug.
Yeah. And I think people are like, we're mixing with freelancers, it's not going to be great for internal employees. I believe it or not, like the companies that we work with, like on a regular basis, their employees actually like interacting with them. They're meeting new people. They're learning from some of them. They're seeing different approaches. Learning. People love to learn, right? And especially things that they're passionate about. So they see someone come in with a different perspective, a different expertise, and they learn from them. That's exciting for them, right? Instead of again plugging through the same old stuff day after day, and all of a sudden they're getting new insights, new angle, new ways to think about things, and new ways to approach it, and it gets their minds going, because people love to learn, and so this is a great opportunity for organizations.
Yeah, it is. And for me, increasingly as time goes on, Doug, this is an essential part of diversity. We talk about sort of whether it's race,
Oh,
religion, all these kind of things, but the how to work, how to be able to organize your time is almost an increasingly relevant part of this diversity and the benefits it brings to an organization in the same way.
yeah, yeah. Diversity is a big part, and it's a big part for me, especially when I think about unlocking people's potential.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, you may or may not see. I mentioned in one of our town halls, and somebody recorded and put it out on a video on LinkedIn. But I just
Mm.
think there's so much potential in this world, and
Yeah.
businesses have their old ways of thinking how things should get done, and what happens is there's biases, unconscious biases. Oftentimes, I don't think
There is.
most people
There
are
is.
not. It's not consciously thinking about it, but
Yeah.
when you think about the freelancer in the challenge model in particular, you don't need to like see what someone looks like. You don't care about necessarily, they're, that they have 10 kids, or they don't have a college education,
Right.
their with their religion, their background. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. All that really matters is they can get the work done. And they do it
Yes.
at the quality and the level that you expect. So remove all the biases,
Hmm.
take it all away, like, and at the end of the day, just deliver outcomes and results. And that's the beauty of it. And what happens is with this, especially with the challenge model, is great too, because we're not picking and choosing. Like, people are coming in, they're self-selecting, and we've done some of that. We've looked at some of the stats, and we've got a higher percentage of much higher diversity. A lot more women are coming in that you wouldn't
Right.
typically see in coding. Right. And it's
Yeah.
great because there's no one stopping them. There's no unconscious bias that's happening. And so they're helping to solve these complex problems. We're
Yeah.
giving them an opportunity. And that's the other beauty of the challenge model. It's if someone's just starting to get into the business, right?
Yep.
Come in, do some challenges. Maybe you don't win initially, but you start to move your rankings up. You start to build that proof of capability. And then maybe you can move into gig work because now you have a resume and a proof of capability. And so
Yes.
that's what we want to do at Topcoder. We keep on thinking about ways to unlock this potential in these people and remove all the biases.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we sort of get our crystal ball out, not distant future, but sort of medium term, because
Yeah.
we talk about the future of work, but a lot of this is actually the present of work, and it's real for a lot of companies. But what are the next steps? What we'll be seeing within this sort of the change in the process in this open talent, blended teams? What should we be looking out for, basically, Doug?
Yeah, there's a lot of great players in the industry right now. So I think a rising tide lifts all ships, right? So
Yeah.
I'm an advocate for all of them, right? And so
Mm.
I sit here, I mentioned Topcoder, but hey, work with any of these platforms. There's a lot of wonderful platforms out there. So I think it's
Okay.
important that we start to build that trust that I'm talking about. Some platforms are advancing in certain areas. I think there'll be a bit of a consolidation in the near
Okay.
term, where companies will start to come together, and you'll start to see where they have specific niches and expertise, and they bring that together and offer a more comprehensive solution to organizazations. One of the things that we're doing at Topcoder, I think that's important, is we sort of disrupted our own model. We said, we're unlocking the potential of the global workforce, and we asked ourselves and we really challenged ourselves. Well, you know what? There's a lot of potential within full-time employees.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not
Yeah.
just about the freelance world, right? There's a lot of potential within full-time employees. What if we took our challenge model and put it inside an enterprise? So
Mm.
think about a large organization where, there's different departments. You often know like the skill sets in your department, but you get the department next door across the world. Think about some of the really large organizations. You don't know
Right.
their experience. You don't know you don't know their
No.
skill sets. And oftentimes you're not even tracking that in any system or anything. And so so what ends up happening is you'll go externally first, right? Potentially,
Yes.
maybe you'll
Yeah.
bring in someone part-time, maybe we'll bring in, a freelancer, but why not challenge your existing workforce? And so we're
Mm.
taking our challenge model and saying, hey, let's put it inside organizations and open up challenges to the organization. Let's really take advantage of the people that we within our organization, tap into that skill set. And again,
Yes.
you may find people that are passionate and they'll want to work on some of these projects because maybe they want to get recognition in that department, right?
Mm.
Maybe they wanted to build this, work on a skill set. Maybe they want to prove that they're capable of doing something. Maybe it's just something they're excited and passionate about. So start to unlock that passion within your organization. And then, you know what, if you don't find the skills or you can't solve it there, then push it externally. Because I think
Yeah.
we'll always need to bring in the external folks that, that we're talking about. And so I
Mm.
think it's important that organizations start to look inward first. How can we get the most out of our existing organization? and then
Yes.
really start to think about how can we add the freelance economy and the freelance the gig workforce into our business model, and to really bolster it and to drive innovation. And so again, I said this earlier, the companies that figure that out are the ones that are going to excel, and they're going to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and of course, using a trusted partner and a trusted advisor like Topcoder too, and the fantastic work that you're doing in terms of building these talent clouds, building these ecosystems as well, is fantastic. And really look forward to following the journey, and also hearing more from you in the not too distant future about how things are going and what the next steps are again, Doug. So I really appreciate your time today, and thanks for sharing your words of wisdom.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Thanks for the time today. And it's always good to chat, and look forward to jumping on again at some point and talking a little bit more.
Absolutely.
All right.
Pleasure.
Take care.